Hi, I'm Melissa.
And I'm Ammiel.
We love video games and movies, and we love talking about them.
So we are hosting a new podcast where every week we choose one video game and one movie to talk about.
We will go through each click and flick from beginning to end and talk about what we like and don't like. And then we will give you a rating based completely on our own opinions and nothing else. Ciao.
Hey.
Hello. Welcome
Here
back.
we are again, clicking and flicking.
Flicking and clicking. I'm so ready for today's episode.
All the clicks, all the flicks. Yeah, today's episode I'm kind of excited for because it's kind of fun.
It is.
I'm excited.
It's a roller coaster.
Yes, okay. Let's just get into it then.
Okay. Our click of the week. And today's click is going to be on Mass Effect 1, the very first game of the trilogy. And this game...
Exciting.
I know. I was kind of sad that we didn't, decide to do all three, but it would have been too much.
That's a lot.
It is. Even one is a massive game. So I want to say it came out in 2007. I was going to say 8, but I'm glad I checked. Okay. It came out in 2007 on Xbox 360, which is where I was introduced to it. It is an RPG space game, which, if RPGs are your thing, this is the game to play. Absolutely. The game does take place in the Milky Way in 2183, I believe. I don't know why I said it that way, but that's, Okay. So in this realm of the game, like I said, it's a space game. So it does take place in the Milky Way. You're introduced to Shepard, who can be a female character, can be non-binary character, I believe. I don't think they ever state any genders, but you can customize your character beyond belief. They just call him Shepard. That's it.
Mm-hmm. You can play as any gender.
Correct.
You want to.
Yes. And if you have
progressive for 2007.
Absolutely. And it was great because being an RPG like that, it's great. And the customizability, like, in the game is fantastic. Okay, so the game starts out with Shepard answering a distress call, basically. There's a ship called the Normandy that Captain Anderson is the captain of, who is basically, I want to say, I guess, in charge of Shepard, because he's a lieutenant under him. And they get this call, so they're intrigued to go back to Eden Prime, which Eden Prime is...
Were they the ones who made the Reapers?
No.
Okay. Sorry, I don't want to get confused.
No, you're okay. Okay, so Eden Prime is the one of the first human colonies to just inhabit an Earth-like system, I guess, because it is so far in the future. But they got the distress call that Eden Prime was attacked. That's what it was. And they got attacked. They couldn't explain what it was. It was just massive.
This was a human colony in space?
Yes.
So humans, they don't like them very much in space. Is that right?
They're not the most... I don't want to say that they're the most, neutral, but they kind of are. Because of all the different mass races, like the Citadel houses that council, and there's 2 or 3 humans on that council already. So they're not They're kind of like in between. They're neutral. But the Reapers, when they come into play, they just want to eradicate all organic life. So this was just the main front of their attack to begin with.
I see. I see.
Yeah. So when Captain Anderson gets the call that Eden Prime was attacked, you start to get introduced to your sub characters, Caden and Ashley. Caden is a male. He's loyal. He's a biotic. He's a biotic specialist. So in the beginning, you kind of get to choose what you get to specialize in. So if you want to specialize in weaponry, more like spell casty kind of classes. But Caden's kind of that spell casty class, the healer. And then Ashley's more the brunt. She's a soldier. She's tough. But you get introduced to them, and they're crucial towards the end. And all that Shepard can see, he gets this kind of like vision of a ship burning everything. And again, this thing's just massive. They can't even describe it, right? So they find the beacon after heading towards Eden Prime. They find a beacon that is extremely old and from the Prothean race, which the Prothean race is extinct.
And they are the ones who basically created the Reapers.
Yes.
Or how it came about.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they find this old beacon that just so happens to be tapped by something. They don't know what it is. And when they find it, Ashley gets hit by the beacon. But Shepard's like, no, I gotta save you. And again, a bunch of RPG stuff happens, but he protects her from the hit. Then he takes the hit, causing him to fall unconscious. And they basically gather everybody up, put them on Normandy, and shove them to the Citadel to try to convince the council, like, hey, these guys are, whatever they're doing, it's not good. We need to get to the bottom of it. And they do suspect there's a lot of races in this game, but the Turian race. And the Turian race are this alien-like race with bright neon LED-like eyes.
And they think they're the ones who attacked?
Yep, they think they're the Turian race is responsible for the attack on Eden Prime.
And it's the Citadel who thinks that, right?
No.
No,
the Normandy group, so Captain Anderson, Shepard, Ashley, Caden, they all kind of come to that conclusion, and they go to the Citadel to say, hey, we think it's...
They think it's them.
Yep. So they're trying to convince this council that kind of has rule over the entire solar system that, hey, this race is causing an issue. And council could not be convinced because the Saren, who is a Turian, is on that council, and he's nobody suspects him, but they're trying to say, like, we kind of think Saren's a problem, and council doesn't want to believe him. So right after the meeting with the council happens, my favorite character is introduced, and his name is Garrus. He's a Turian as well. But he's this badass character that he's kind of like the moody, like, my race is a problem, but I know all the ins and outs, And you also get introduced to Rex, who's a Krogan, big, burly race that kind of look like hippopotamuses on steroids. They look big and huge. They've got really deep voices too. But he's a bounty hunter. And then you get introduced to Tally, who's I'm going to butcher this. A Quarian, I think that's how you say it. It's been forever since I've heard her race name. But Tally is a fugitive, and she just has this purple mask in front of her face. Very mysterious woman because she's a fugitive. And once you kind of gather a team of sorts of all kinds of different, classes and races, they all form together to try and find out if Saren's actually the one causing the problem. But Tally, because she's a fugitive, she reveals that Saren was trying to bring back sentient machines, cleansing organic life. Plot twist, Tally fucking knows everything.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
What?
she's like, besides Garrus, she's also like one of my favorite characters in the game. But they basically say, okay, the Reapers were a problem. The council was then notified, hey, Tally knows this information. Now we have a little bit of proof. And the council strips Saren of his position. They strip him of all of his, his
Rankings.
title. Yes, thank you. His title, his ranking, which sets him off, obviously. And Captain Anderson at that point is like, I'm too old for this. Maybe I should sit this one out. And gives him Normandy, the ship that he can use to travel the solar system with and go find Saren. And there's a lot of characters in this game. I'm sorry, bear with me. But Liara, the alien race Prothean expert, if you will, she's a very important character because she's the daughter of Benezia, and Benezia is Saren's top lieutenant. Yeah, there's a lot of characters. I'm sorry.
It's intricate.
It is very intricate, hence the RPG status of it. But basically, when you get introduced to Liara, you kind of swoon over her a little bit. There's alien sex that happens. It's amazing. 10 out of 10 recommend swooning Liara for sure.
I will say that this game has always been known in my head for the amazing love scenes.
Right? Right? Oh my gosh.
So many.
So many.
So many to choose from, all types.
Absolutely. And
no discrimination.
No discrimination. I don't know, though. I'm not sure how because I haven't tried. I've always played a female in the game. So I'm not sure if you could swoon Garrus if you were technically a male in the game, but I don't know.
I have seen videos.
You have? Yes.
Yes,
oh,
ma'am.
God,
They
revolutionary.
Are beautiful. Lovely. I love those scenes.
Like I said, Garrus, yes. 100%.
So.
Ready? So, after the lovely intercourse that you can have with Liara, Ashley, Caden, Garrus, I don't know if you can swoon Rex.
The beautiful characters of...
Yes. You start to get back to the realization of the mission, finding Saren. Saren did rally up Benezia. He basically said, hey, we've got to do the thing. You're coming with me. And she's obedient by all means. And they go to a planet that is completely inhabited by Rachni. So, insect race, if you will. Yeah. And Saren got the info and of the Rachni and ended up being able to control Benezia. He could control her actions, her mind, basically. And the worst part of the game is that Liara had to watch her mother die in her arms because she wouldn't back down to the group, to the team. Shepard tried to reason with her, but he couldn't because she was taken control of, which is heartbreaking.
That's so devastating.
I know. And for Liara to be the character that she is and lose her mother that way, it's so dynamic and it gives so much meat to the story. It's crazy. But in that midst of the terrible situation, Shepard does convince the Rachni to leave. They leave with their queen and they GTFO. Luckily, I don't know why this race was so easily swayed, but here we are. Then Saren.
This is the race of like insect
Yeah.
things that are
Yeah.
controlled, right?
Yep. Because he gets the info of the Rachni, and that's how he got control over Benezia.
And so he, the like queen of the Rachni, or like the mother, or whatever,
Yeah.
you can either choose to save her.
I don't recall that decision, but I'm sure it's in there. I didn't know.
If you choose to save her, she comes back in the third game.
That's right, because she fights you on it. She's like, well, I don't have to leave. That's right.
And if
That's
you
right.
don't save her, then she doesn't come back in the game. But if you do save her and she comes back in the game and you have to end up fighting another battle with her kids again.
Oh, God. Yeah.
But then at the end, she'll come back and help you. So you get a little bit of extra help at the end of the third game.
Yep.
If you go through this other battle and if you decide to save her in the first game.
Yep.
So that was kind of crazy to me, hearing that, thinking about, oh, in 2007 they planned this, and then you can move your saved files from that game to... I'm like, so what if you only buy Mass Effect 3?
Yeah.
Then you just get default settings of like whatever.
Exactly. And because it had been so long since the first game to the release of the third, they did make it so that in the beginning of the game you have the option to check, okay, I don't want to give anything away, but this person dies and then I saved this person. You get the options to click.
Oh, okay.
Luckily. But yeah, who would have thought that a game in 2007 and then the release of 3 almost 10 years later, like,
would have
an effect.
It didn't even come up in the sequel.
I know. It's wild. I love this game series. It's amazing. But yes, thank you for pointing that out. No, thank you, because I kind of skipped over those decisions until the end. Because the biggest one at the end is like the crazy part. But so like I said, Saren realized his time was up with the Rachni, so he goes to the Krogan race, which is Rex's race. Now, the Krogans have had a disease infecting their entire race, which is called genophage, and it prevents them from being able to breed. And what's cool in this scene is that you really get, because there's so many races in the game, for Krogans to be as like meaty and buff as they are, you get to meet a mother and throughout that storyline, and you feel so hard for them. And the fact that the cure is such a big deal to them, and Saren has that cure, you're like, I gotta help him. I gotta do it, right? But Saren was actually mass producing fake Krogan, kind of treating them as, I'll give you the cure if I get to like recreate all of you fake ones. And Rex gets extremely violent about killing Saren because he has the cure, or at least killing all of the recreated Krogans, because he's like, I can get the cure, I can fix this, and almost goes rogue, or does go rogue, but he then realizes like they're fake, they're not really part of my species, and then allows what needs to be done as far as killing the procreated ones.
Wow.
Yeah, and so then you do find out at the Krogan base that the Reapers want everyone dead, basically all organic matter gone. And Saren was close to being able to eradicate with the Reaper's help. And so at this point in time, you're still on the Krogan planet, and you have the choice to go kill Saren, or at least attempt. And the best way to do it is splitting up the party. So you send Ashley and Caden in 2 separate directions, and you choose. So one a distraction, and then one you go with and fight, which is another crazy plot twist, depending on who you choose. Skip forward all the fighting. You find out towards the end that Sovereign, who is a character who I believe is a Turian as well, if I'm not mistaken, was the Reaper with the master plan. He was basically... Or no, Sovereign was a Reaper, forgive me, not a Turian. With the master plan. So him, Sovereign, and Saren were working together to try to eliminate everybody. And at that point in time, when they realize that Sovereign's working with Saren, Shepard can only save one of the teammates, whether that be Ashley or Caden. And honestly, I kept Caden in my first playthrough, but it affects the rest of the game. They talk about the person that dies frequently, because it's part of your team. They were part of the Normandy team. But despite that one casualty, they were able to save a lot more in the long run. But they go to another planet after that heavy decision where Saren was. I can't remember how they get that information, but they knew he was there. And there was a serious battle on this planet, I think it's called Ilos, between the Protheans and the Reapers. So they basically kind of get the history of the Protheans and kind of how they died, and the Reapers' destruction upon them. And so fast forwarding between all of that information, Saren attacks the Citadel in that also meantime. So they went to that planet seeking Saren, didn't find him. He was actually at the Citadel attacking them. And the Citadel is this, if you can imagine it, it looks like a squid. It's just got arms coming out from the main base of it and all the way around with a bright light in the middle. It's a really beautiful little like home ship. It's huge. It's massive.
And they are the government of the galaxy.
Absolutely.
Basically. They're in charge.
Yep. And for the most part, they're on the good side. Obviously, they're not swayed one way or the other. They're very neutral, but also lawfully good. Yeah. And while they're heading to the Citadel because of the attack signal that they got, Shepard, when they get there, he kills Saren. And basically, there was mass destruction on the Citadel. There was a lot done because Saren had his army of Reapers that were coming just to destroy the Citadel. And once all of that settled its way down, the Council ultimately decides at that point that Shepard is worthy enough to be a human on the Council, which is a big deal. And then Anderson and another character that was up for run for the Council, named Udina, were kind of neck and neck. So they were saying who should be on the Council next, Anderson or Udina. And that's a choice. You get to make that choice.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And Udina is one that talks about Saren not being a problem in the first place. And Anderson is the one that gave you the ship.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, I was completely swayed to take Anderson's side anyway. Again,
I would be swayed to take Anderson's side because he's voiced by Keith David, who
Who's that? I feel so bad for not knowing who that is.
He's in a lot of things from like I want to say like 80s, 90s.
Oh, okay. Really?
Like he was in The Thing.
No.
Yeah, but he was also the voice of Dr. Facilier in The Princess and the Frog.
I didn't know that.
And then my favorite thing is that he narrated the Pillows and Blankets episode of Community.
Oh my gosh.
Where Troy and Abed are making like a pillow fort and a blanket fort, and they end up like fighting and and then he's also in season 6 of Community as like a member of the cast. He's in like almost all the episodes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, immediately swayed.
Yeah, he plays Elroy, who is an inventor who ends up becoming part of the school and helping them with like technical stuff.
Yes. I'm gonna look him up.
So every time I hear his voice, because I'm such a Community
yeah,
every time I hear his voice in like any Mass Effect, I'm all
that's him. I know there's Community. A lot of famous actors in or voice actors in that game. It's insane.
Seth Green.
Yes, Seth Green,
who I've loved since I was a kid.
Yeah, same. I can appreciate Seth Green a lot. I remember hearing his voice and being like, oh, I know that guy.
Yeah.
But I was young.
Chris Griffin?
Yeah. Yeah, because I think he's like a side mechanic pilot in the game. That's funny. But anyway, you make that decision between Anderson and Udina, which affects the rest of the game, obviously. And all kind of goes back to shit. They take their ship, and they know the Reapers are out there, so it's obviously an open-ended decision game. So Shepard's next mission, even though he wasn't really assigned to it, was to go find the Reapers and find the base of it. Mm-hmm. And that's it.
See, and that's so crazy to me, because this one monster makes this like mass, well, not monster, technically like robot, right?
Right.
Yikes.
Yep. And it's such an aesthetically beautiful game. The customization, the RPG aspect, it's so good. It's long, but it's good. Ugh. But that was pretty much it. Okay. This is the first click that I'm going to give a 10 out of 10. Because yeah. That's the standard I have for games is Mass Effect for sure.
Okay,
because
girl.
It's good, man. What would you give it?
I honestly never played it because I never had Xbox.
Right.
So all I got to do was listen to people talk about it, which I've heard for years, watching my friends play it. Mm-hmm. My roommate played it for such a long time. So that's why I've watched a lot of the scenes. Mm-hmm. I think that it's I don't get to give it a rating, honestly.
Because you haven't experienced it? Is that why?
Right, because I haven't played it, but I will say that it's definitely made a cultural impact.
Yeah.
In such a way that even I can, like,
appreciate.
Even I know a lot about it, even though I've never played it, you know?
Yeah. It's a revolutionary game, by all means.
So I would say 10 out of 10.
Okay. I accept. Cool.
All right.
Let's do the flick.
Oh my gosh.
I'm nervous.
Kind of excited. I don't really want to go... Okay, so for the flick, I don't necessarily want to go, like, scene by scene like we've done before.
Okay.
Because that takes such a long time, especially for a movie where we're trying to get a lot, and then we're talking about the scenes and how we felt about them. So I just kind of want to give a synopsis of it, and then I want to talk about how it made me feel.
Okay. Okay.
And
I have some feels too.
I also want to say that we never really explicitly have given like spoiler warnings, but it should like go without saying that we're going to be talking about the details and stuff. So spoiler. Okay, so today's flick was Space Sweepers. It came out in 2021 this year.
Oh wow, yeah.
And okay, so here's what was impressive to me is that movies typically are made on a budget anywhere like low budget films are made on a budget between like 100 million, 150 million.
That's a low budget?
It's like a low budget film, right? like Avengers movies are in the like $300 million, and like Avatar cost $425 million to make or something.
I am
that might not be
shook.
Yeah, that might not be the exact number for Avatar, but it's in that ballpark for sure. So here's what's so impressive about Space Sweepers. The first thing that I was like, no way, is that they made it with like $24 million. Wait, let me double check that.
I'm glad you touched on this because I felt the same way, and it held its own, that is for sure.
Okay, so I'm sorry. In US dollars it would convert to 21.2 million.
Wow.
So this is like ridiculously low budget film.
Wow.
And it was just the whole time before I even knew the budget, as I was watching it, I was like, wow, this is really like, visually stunning. This is great. This is gorgeous.
There was detail in spots you wouldn't even assume.
The special effects and the action scenes were all exciting. Oh my gosh. It was
absolutely so good. The only gripe I had was like there was a shot of clothing that looked like they went to a wardrobe real quick and just put something on, and it was kind of slapped together. But that, and there was a bloody scene that there was no blood in.
That's true. Yeah. I do remember that.
But that was it. That was it.
And I feel like that I'm kind of glad they didn't have blood in that scene. Because, spoiler, it was when they were shooting, like, all the people, and...
Yeah. A lot of innocent people.
And with as many, like, the machine guns, so these robots are just killing this team of, like, environmentalists, basically, who are trying to save, like, the real Earth.
Right.
And, so there's, like, they come in and they shoot it all up. They just don't show a lot of blood on the bodies when they're, like, dragging them away, which is, like...
Right.
Considering how traumatic that scene is, and, like, they're watching their friends die, and, like... It's, I'm kind of, like... I was like, okay, that's okay. They don't need to have, like, all that blood. Like,
and they did have the scene after they were dead. They were taking the bodies from the spot, basically. And so, I get that. Not having the blood was kind of a nice thing, but it was something I noticed. Like, oh, they got lit up, but there's nothing there. Like, at all.
Yeah. Well, where's the holes?
What?
But it was okay.
Yeah.
Because it is a sci-fi movie, and it is campy, it is cheesy, and I feel like that's what sci-fi is supposed to be. Like, that's exactly what the genre is. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So this movie is set in 2092, and... basically, the Earth is, like, not
doing well.
It's not doing good. It is not
doing good.
The forest is gone.
Yeah.
The oceans are gone. The desert is booming. It is everywhere. The desert is living its hot girl summer. And...
yes, it is.
But no, unfortunately for humans, it is not a great place.
Right.
So humans are slowly dying who are on Earth. Luckily, Elon Musk has created a space colony. In the movie, his name... I'm sorry. James Sullivan. James Sullivan is the name of the scientist who is, he's supposedly 152 years old. Oh. And he honestly kind of looks like Bo Burnham in Inside. I'm like, they're like the same age, okay. Just kidding.
Right.
But he looks young, like he looks like in his 30s, right?
Yeah.
This guy, James Sullivan, who essentially is like supposed to be like the Elon Musk like type guy. He's building a colony on Mars, and he has these orbits in space that are basically little colonies for humans to live on until Mars is ready. But you have it's like for the select few, and it's obviously very like classist and like racist, and it's all because he's talking about you can tell with their DNA what kind of humans have the best character, and and it's like obviously all the rich people are on these spaceships orbiting, and the poor people are left to live on Earth, or to go out and become space sweepers. And so space sweepers basically, because
it's like the military,
right, and they're just cleaning. It's kind of like the Coast Guard. I'm just kidding. They don't really fight, actually. They're just cleaners. They're like the janitors of space. And it is risking your life, basically. So you have to like go on these missions, collecting space junk that's basically flying millions of miles an hour through space. And if like you have to be skilled space sweeper in order to collect them, or else these space junk pieces could potentially crash into you and kill you. That's why it's so threatening. And these space sweepers that we follow in the movie are main characters, and I hope so Captain Jang is the girl on the crew. She is super fierce.
She's
super badass, does not take anyone's shit. She's definitely like the Ashley Spinelli, the Buttercup, the every like tough girl kind of trope that you can think of. I just gave two cartoon characters instead of any sci-fi examples, but there you go.
The Ashley of them, yeah.
And Tiger Park, who is, he's like same kind of, he's like doesn't give a shit kind of character, like whatever, kind of like, he's still cool but not like as angsty angry as Captain Zhang. And then the main character is Teo, and he was in the military, like in the actual space military. And then he was part of this like rebel team that was trying to take down James Sullivan. And he ends up being stripped of his like titles and everything, his citizenship, and he loses his job. But okay, so one of his jobs was, and this is a main part, one of his jobs was like killing immigrants that were trying to like basically get in. And while he was like one of his missions or whatever, he finds a like young baby girl whose mother is dead, and the baby's like in her arms, and so he has this like heart-changing moment seeing this young child, and takes it home and adopts it, and like feels responsible for ruining its life, obviously. Which he is. Kind of, because
that was a hard part for me.
It turns out that she is deaf from the explosions that happened when she was a baby that killed her mom, that he set off, basically. So his daughter... So his backstory goes that he loses his job, is raising his daughter, becomes a gambler. And as he's like one day, he's making bad decisions. He has his daughter with him and she's like, "Oh, Daddy, I want to look at this thing I wrote for you."
Yeah.
And this is where I'm like, okay, yes, it's very campy, people.
Yeah.
But it's sci-fi, so we're giving it. And he's like, "Go play outside." And so she leaves the little room, and it turns out that then there's like an attack, and all the rooms get sealed off and shipped away because they're in space. So they're all sealed off and like fly off, and she's stuck out in like the main area that ends up sending her off into orbit.
Oh God, I know.
So don't ask me how she survives 3 years orbiting with who knows what.
Oh God.
But that's the plot, okay, guys?
Yeah.
I didn't write it, and we're not saying anything bad about it.
No, we are not. It's
we
a
loved
question.
it.
Yeah.
So that's his plot line. So his whole thing is, so basically in order to save her from orbit, this company can go out and like pull her in, but it'll cost him like $1 billion.
Currency is a big deal for them. Doing odd jobs, trading, doing all kinds of stuff just to get a buck, to help with this. Yeah.
It's very much a barter, trade and barter type
underground type of
like
thing.
Society at this point, because everyone is so poor and so in debt, and it's basically space junk. Space trash is like a form of currency now.
Yeah.
So these are the three. So his goal is to try to raise enough money to get his daughter back. Mm-hmm. And then these three are going through space, sweeping it up, and they come across a bomb, quote unquote bomb, that, spoiler, looks like a little girl, right? Yeah. So this like robot is so advanced that it looks like a real human. And it's this little girl, and they, UTS, which is the company, it's the company that James Sullivan owns. Founded, whatever. They're basically saying, "Oh, this bomb is set to go off. We're looking for it, blah, blah. We're going to, so they're looking for it, and the space sweepers find it. And so I just kind of want to, I feel like, so it turns out that she's not a bomb. And but she's lying about it.
Special, yeah.
So what it turns out is that this little girl that they have with them, they obviously all grow a very tight bond with her. She's like, starts calling them uncles, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like what the heck? Like now we want to protect her. Like we don't want to sell her.
Right.
We want to protect her because they're obviously going to do something terrible with her." So they decide to start protecting her, and then on the way they find out like the truth, which is that she is the daughter of one of the main scientists for UTS. Mm-hmm. And she was born with this like horrible disease that she was gonna definitely die. And he found the only cure was to inject her with nanobots.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is like, they're not in the vaccine, I swear. This is a sci-fi movie.
It did come out in 21, so.
I mean, who knows?
They made sure to make it very aesthetically pleasing that there were nanobots in the syringe, that's for sure.
So he injects her with basically billions of nanobots that are so powerful, they are able to control her body and keep her living, even though this disease is basically making it so her organs can't function on their own. So it's basically internal life support.
Yep.
However, the nanobots get to her brain, and she becomes so powerful using the nanobots that she's able to make life grow out of basically nothing. So the way the nanobots were able to keep her life going, she can now use that and control
it.
Right. And so they have like plants that were dead, and then they started blossoming with flowers and fruit when she was there, like controlling them and making them grow. Right. And so they realize, oh, she's the only hope for Earth to get better. But James Sullivan is like, no, all of my efforts to make a colony on Mars are failing because it's dumb.
Go figure.
Sorry, Grimes, but it's a dumb idea to have a colony on Mars.
Absolutely.
So James Sullivan is like, well, we're going to use her to make life grow on Mars. Control her to make life grow on Mars. And we're going to say that it's this tree of life, basically.
Yep. Give the people hope.
Right. Make them think, like, blah, blah, blah. So it's this, like,
slimy
conspiracy to basically become, like, the most beloved ruler and person on the planet. This guy just wants everybody to think he's the greatest.
Yep.
But he's actually doing a lot of really evil things.
Evil man.
I don't want to compare him to anyone in real life, but does that sound familiar?
I mean, they had to get inspiration somewhere.
I guarantee you, in this universe, James Sullivan did absolutely host SNL. Like, at some point. So, anyways, so they end up finding her dad on this team of environmentalists, and this is the part that's so sad that we were talking about earlier, where now the robots find them and they come in and they kill the whole team. They kill her dad, and they take her and they take her back. And now there really is a bomb.
Yeah. But they steal it. They steal it from the core of the baddies, basically. Yeah.
I want to kind of skip closer to the end so that we can wrap it up and then just talk about the movie as a whole. So Sullivan has this plan to explode the space station.
Yeah.
Some people would say blow up. And basically it would go hurling into the earth and kill 3 billion people.
Yep. Master plan.
And Teo is basically like, I'm going to take this money from Sullivan. Sullivan gave him a bunch of money so he could take the girl. He calls her Dorothy, but her real name was Coat Min.
Yeah, that's like the English translation, if you will. Like that's how it would be pronounced for English, but yeah. Like I can't even remember how they say it, but yeah, Coat Min was her actual name.
Nim. Coat Nim.
Coat Nim.
Yeah, so I was flipping the M in the end. But basically, he takes the money to go get his daughter, and then they're like, oh, yeah, we could get your daughter right away. And he's like waiting there, and then he's like, no, I have to go save the world. So he leaves and is not able to save his daughter because he has to go and save the earth, which is like so heartbreaking, but this is why I want to get through it, because this is what I want to talk about later.
Yeah.
He goes back, he saves he joins up with his team again. They have these awesome fight scenes, awesome, I mean, yes, cheesy, but this is what we want, you know what I mean?
Sci-fi.
Sci-fi. They're great. These battles are just, like, epic, right?
Yes.
And they realize they can't, what's the word I'm trying to, defuse the bomb, because as soon as the detonator is inside the bomb, so if they hack into it, it'll explode.
Yeah.
So she's like, the only thing we can do, and this bomb is going to basically set off any nanobot that's within any distance of it.
Yeah.
5,000 kilometers or something. And so obviously
she would be affected.
would be affected, would basically die. If the nanobots inside her, like, failing didn't kill her, then she still has that disease that was killing her. So they were like, we would not be able to save her no matter what. And so they realized the only way to save her is to fly her far away enough from the explosion that she's out of its radius. So they're basically racing against time to get her out of the radius of the bomb, and she makes it, and with the help of all the other space sweepers in space fighting, because basically Captain Zhang gets on an intercom and is like, hey, to all of the space sweepers, like, this is what's really happening, this is their plan, they're gonna kill Earth, which is where our home, where our families are, like, everyone's gonna die, basically, unless we fight. And she goes, if you're afraid of death, leave. But if you're not, then come fight with us. Yes. And it's just one of those, like, absolutely cheesy lines that's just like, yeah.
You're like, hell yeah, I'm part of the Space Sweepers, yes.
And, so they have this big epic battle in space with all those space sweepers. And it's just everything you want to see is, like, the working class rallying up to fight back against the man, right? Against the power
Elon Musk.
structure. Against the 1%.
Exactly.
Oops. Sorry.
That's okay.
Knocked over my drink. So they get Coatnim out in time, and she then is able to help pull the team out of the way of the explosion. Yeah. Because she was far away enough, and she is still powerful enough to control it, because she basically is like a god.
Yeah, nanobot god.
Right.
For sure, yeah.
Unfortunately, now it's too late for our protagonist to save his daughter.
I know, the time is up.
So sad. And she is about to leave the orbit, but she's not too far for... Basically, Coatnim is able to get her consciousness, like,
to become a force field.
Like, somehow, in another realm, she's able to, like, connect their consciousness to have one more conversation.
That's right. That's right.
And
that's
so
right.
he goes and he sees his daughter and he says goodbye to her before she basically continues drifting off into space and slowly, like, I don't know. I really don't know what the situation with her is, because that's it. Basically, she's just gone after that.
Yeah.
And so then we see our 3 space sweepers. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I totally forgot to mention.
You forgot Bubs?
This whole time.
It's okay. I was going to mention him later because he's my favorite character.
Yeah. Well, Bubs, actually she.
Sorry. Forgive
me. Is voiced by a very deep masculine voice, but...
Forgive me. Oh my goodness.
But she's saving up for skin grafts and she wants to be like this like feminine like woman. So it's a robot who is built and has like a really deep voice, but she's really like feminine, and when she saves up enough money, is going to be able to. At the end, she's just looks like a normal human woman who, because she's finally able to afford and not be a robot anymore. So that's really sweet. And but as a whole, I want to say this movie was just so fun to watch because it had every element that a sci-fi fan would want to see in a movie.
Absolutely.
In my opinion, it's never taking itself too seriously. It has this outrageously evil bad guy. It has like these over the top, like campy, tough guy character good guys who are just like the typical, like the bunch of scrappy misfits that you can relate to because they're in a way the parts of us that we feel don't fit in society.
Right.
And then you just like, they have the little girl who you're like, oh my gosh, saving this child. And you're like,
yeah.
Love the family aspect. At the end, they all become a happy family. And I just think it was so well done for being... First of all, I couldn't even believe the budget when I heard it.
That blew my mind. I had no idea.
Just because of how good it looks. And then I guess the only thing I am thinking is like, no, there aren't a lot of like big name actors in it that are like Hollywood A-list or whatever. So I'm sure a lot of big time movies, like obviously The Avengers is $300 million budget, but they have Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, and Chris Evans, and
right,
all those big names. So
crazy.
So this didn't have any big names, but the acting was still obviously really good. It was
par, dude. It worked.
It was funny too. It was just like exactly. There are funny moments. There are moments where you're feeling really heartbroken. It's definitely like, it definitely is one of those, just a story to take you on an adventure. And to have a good, entertaining time. Now, if you're looking to, like, dissect a serious drama that's, like, a
deep
epitome of film, like...
Yeah. Excellence or whatever,
right,
you know?
Like, you're gonna have a lot to critique about this film because some of the writing is cheesy. Some of the plot points are cheesy. They're kind of, like... written in to really easily move the story along instead of actually thinking that would make sense.
Right. But even, there are some films that do that leave a hole that you're sitting there thinking like, what?
Yeah.
How? But this one, you kind of write it off.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh yeah, like, okay, floating in space for 3 years, like, because they really do take the attention away from it pretty well, in my opinion. It was a fleeting concept, and then they would move on to the rest of the story.
We don't need to answer that.
Right. You don't need to know that.
If there were any like questions about logic that came up, they're all, we don't need to answer that. What we need to answer is how we're going to get to the end of this movie.
Exactly.
There's another thing about the bad guy, James Sullivan's character, where there's something going on with his like body. He has something growing like on his neck throughout the movie, and that honestly never is explained.
It doesn't get explained, and they get numerous shots of it. too.
Like getting bigger and bigger. So do you feel like this is leading up to something?
Yeah,
you'd be wrong.
You'd be wrong.
I feel like that's maybe just one of those fun things that they threw in. He is 152 years old, so maybe I'm judging.
True. Who knows? The mind is, it's left to wander.
So the point that I really want to bring up before we wrap it up with this movie, I'm gonna give it. No, I'm not gonna click it yet. I'm not gonna flick it yet. I'm going to.
Okay.
I'm gonna say this last point. Him deciding to sacrifice his daughter to save all of Earth, the 3 billion lives on Earth, and his team and all of that. I definitely, as I was watching it, was like, how do I feel about this?
Yeah.
Like, that's so sad and so hard. But then I
tugged.
had flashbacks to our conversations of The Last of Us and how Joel did not sacrifice his daughter and actually cost humanity everything
exactly
to save one life. And I'm thinking, like, wow, that I really thought was selfish.
Yeah.
The only difference is that in The Last of Us, she knew the cost and was willing to give up her life to save humanity.
Correct.
And he still lied to her.
Yep. And he still intervened.
And in this movie, this little girl has just been floating
helpless
in space for 3 years. Just waiting for her dad for 3 years. And at the last minute, he's like, wait, I can't save her. I have to save the planet.
Oh my God.
And that's so hard.
It is so hard
to choose. But I'm like, wow, I have to, I guess, kind of respect him for saving everyone's family.
Yep.
Everyone he cares about and loves. As space sweepers, all his closest friends, all of their families live on Earth. Like,
yeah, it's a decision that, like, the weight of it doesn't hit you until he says his last goodbye. But also there was that scene where she's trying to talk to him at the bar, where he's like completely enamored by what's going on at the bar.
The last time he talked to her was him telling her, like, go away, go outside.
Yeah. And that whole decision.
I knew when Colt Nim's father died that I knew that his daughter was gonna die.
Really?
I kind of knew that, because I was like, okay, so they're gonna be each other's, like, replacements, basically. Because there's no way that those two girls are gonna be, like, sisters. You know what I mean? Like, that would cause. I'm like, they would definitely have to, like, write in way more in order for these two characters to, like, then meet. Right? That makes
a lot of sense. Yeah, I get that for sure.
I don't know. I feel like, okay, so listening back to past episodes, I've given really low scores to these movies. Even the ones I really loved, I gave, like, 6 flicks to.
Okay.
I really liked this, though. I think I'm going to give it an 8 flicks for a sci-fi. Because I really thought that... I really thought that it was just a good movie for, like... I definitely thought it was better than any of the other movies we've seen so far. For its genre. Like, for a sci-fi movie... It's, like, hitting all the marks that I need a sci-fi movie to hit. It's just my opinion.
I get that. I think if I'm okay to rate now, I'm not going to be as generous. And the only reason is just because, one, it's not my favorite genre of movie. But I will give it 5 flicks. Hear me out. I was going to give it 3.
Ooh.
But I couldn't justify it. You know, there's no reason. Yeah, that was really low.
That's really
but
low.
I say 5 because it's watchable. Most anybody can watch it and at least gets, some kind of, pull from it.
And I think that I gave it such a high score because for me, what's really important is being able to be so entertained with something you can watch it again and it still is fun and exciting. And I just think that this storyline is one that has enough like comic relief parts, it has enough action, it has enough like heart throbbing parts where you're just like kind of on this ride that's out of this world. So I don't need to justify giving it a high score.
No, and I, again, most of my score is just out of preference. Would I watch it again? Probably not. If somebody were to say, hey, I want to watch Space Sweepers, okay, sure. Like, I'll watch it with you because it gives me kind of like a newer outlook, I guess, on it.
But just not your genre.
Yeah, just not my genre. The budget for what they made, absolutely amazing. That is enough for me to say it's not a bad movie by any means. It's definitely one that I would recommend watching at least just once,
Yeah, for sure.
And just purely out of respect
honestly,
for the story and film.
If you're not into sci-fi, it's probably not a movie that you'd like, to be honest.
But the story alone is good. There's a lot of action in it though. So if you're not into like sci-fi action, probably not. I think there's enough story behind it to give you enough of a break between the action scenes.
Right.
I feel.
Like if you're someone who would rather watch something like The King's Speech, then watch The King's Speech. Because this is not that.
Absolutely not.
This is just fun. That's why I liked it.
I also like that there wasn't any necessarily love interest. There was for the most part it was camaraderie and it was would you call it paternal
love?
Like,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, paternal love, and it's something that most everybody can relate to.
Yeah.
But
he never had like a wife or a girlfriend. None of them.
No.
And I don't think that it even is like
doesn't even hint.
Like, it's not like an issue for them because they're so like just day to day trying to survive.
Yeah, exactly. It's great in that aspect. Yeah. So it's a good movie. It should be watched and experienced for sure. Yeah. For sure.
All right.
Is that it? Are we done?
We did it. Oh my gosh, we did so much better on time this time.
Yes. Pat on the mother effing back.
Thank you guys for listening.
Yes, thank you.
If you're listening.
It's not long, so it should be good, right?
Yeah.
Short, sweet, to the point.
But we will see you next time. For Clickin' and Flickin'.
Clickin' and Flicks. Let us know if you have any recommendations, too.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
But, yeah, thanks for listening, and I guess we'll catch you guys later.
Peace out.
Bye. Hey folks, thanks for listening and sticking around.
If you enjoyed what you heard, subscribe and follow for some more Click and Flick content.
If you'd like to hear us talk about your favorite movies and video games, you can send us your suggestions to clickandflickpodcast@gmail.com.
That's click, A-N-D, flick podcast@gmail.com.
We can't wait to hear from you guys.
Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.